Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and National Security Advisor, former President Donald Trump, John Bolton, joins me. Good evening, sir. And let me talk first about China and nuclear weapons and its arsenal. Are we in a world arms race now with nuclear weapons?
Well, I think we are. I think China's been in an arms race against us for a long time, and we haven't figured it out. And nuclear weapons, obviously, the most significant, but really across the full spectrum of capabilities, as China tries to increase its influence or dominance along its Indo-Pacific periphery and threaten us on a worldwide basis. I mean, I think we're very slow to react. It's beginning to change, but hopefully this G7 meeting will help wake up all of the major economic powers, because the Chinese threat is not just in Asia, it's in the Middle East. As we can see from their support for Russia and Ukraine, it's in Europe too.
You know, as I look through the list of the NPT signatories, you've got China 1992, France 92, Soviet Union 1968, UK 1968, US 1968, but we also have other nuclear-armed countries, maybe some who haven't admitted it: Iran, Israel, India, Pakistan, North Korea. Some have bragged, said that they are. I mean, it's not as though we are slowing down weapon development of nuclear weapons. I mean, the more I look, it looks like I don't see any nation taking the leadership role in this.
Well, I think the U.S. has taken the leadership role, but we've failed. We failed to stop North Korea, that's for sure. We're failing to stop Iran, that's also for sure. And I think the lesson is, if you want nuclear weapons and you're patient enough, you can outlast the United States. The record here is not good. Nobody should be under any illusions that the threat of nuclear proliferation, or I think it's important to add, chemical or biological weapons proliferation, has diminished at all.
Let me turn now to the use of nuclear weapons in Putin. I know since the very beginning of this war, more than a year ago, people said Putin will never use nuclear weapons. And I never could figure out how people were so certain of that. Now we have the situation where Ukraine is really making inroads against Russia, pushing Russia out of some of their positions in Ukraine. And Putin's getting cornered. So what confidence do we have that Putin doesn't use one of his nuclear weapons?
Well, I do think it's possible that he would use nuclear weapons, but I think it's in two scenarios. Number one, not just where Russia is being slowly defeated in Ukraine, but where there's a total, complete, utter collapse of Russian forces, where they're literally fleeing toward the Russian border. I could see the possibility of a tactical nuclear weapon there. Second, perhaps related to the first, but second, where Putin himself finds his position in Russia disintegrating, and he would use tactical nuclear weapons to try and firm up his own position. I don't think we're there yet on that one either. We can say that when he has brandished the threat before, it's been a bluff. There's never been sign of any redeployment of Russian nuclear-capable forces. Even when he has threatened, for example, to deploy nuclear weapons into Belarus, that wouldn't make much of a difference either, since the Kaliningrad exclave is already filled with tactical nuclear weapons. So far it's been a bluff. I'm not saying we shouldn't take it seriously, but we have to be accurate in our assessment and not allow Putin to deter our actions in Ukraine for fear of something that he's not really intending to do.
Well, it's not, as he looks at this war with Ukraine, is that I know that it's sort of positioned around the world as a war with Ukraine, and I really, frankly, don't understand it. We're sending F-16s, or at least training people to fly F-16s. We've tried to say that this isn't a NATO, this is not a NATO war, this is Ukraine war, but all these NATO countries are supplying Ukraine. And I'm trying to think, how it is that Putin thinks, well, this is not NATO, this is Ukraine. And as his forces are depleted, he's sending tanks to the front line that are from the 1950s. So things can't look particularly good for him in terms of equipment. I just don't see why a man who's crazy enough to invade Ukraine in the first place, why we think he's suddenly sane when it comes to severe weapon or serious weapons like nuclear weapons when he's cornered and losing.
Well, I don't think from his perspective he was crazy to invade Ukraine. If you look at his objectives in the world, it makes sense to him. May not make sense to us, but it makes sense to him. But the way you deal with the potential use of nuclear weapons is to find ways to deter Putin from doing it. So my favorite deterrent is to make it very clear to him that if it were ever to happen, he would have signed his own death warrant. Now, that's pretty dramatic, but I think if there's a better deterrent, I'm certainly happy to consider it. We've got to make it clear that the consequences to Russia of even one demonstration tactical nuclear weapon would be far more that they could bear.
Ambassador John Bolton, thank you, sir.
Thank you.